Jeff, I think that God is wanting us to change the mentality we've had. And you're right on it. Joshua and Caleb had a different spirit about them. The Lord commended them for their spirit. And he basically said, you'll have your inheritance, but everybody else, according to your generation, they're going to die in this wilderness.
Yeah.
And so you'll get to go in, but it's because you've postured yourself not in fear, but in faith.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a huge thing right now. I really believe that the Lord is saying, you're not going to fight well unless you deal with fear. So I believe God's asking us right now, where do you fear? Where do you have fear in your life? Go after that place of fear.
Yeah,
And you know what? That's a pretty probing question sometimes, because typically, and I'll speak for my own self, typically I like to avoid places that I fear. Because I don't like to admit that I have fear there, and I don't even, and I'm afraid to even uncover how afraid I am.
Yep.
And so the Lord though is good, because he goes, Andrew, if you allow fear to exist, every place that you fear, it will rule, it will dominate.
Mm-hmm.
Faith won't have full vent, or faith won't have full ability to come forth where you're still allowing fear to rule, to dominate, to reign. So you have to allow the Spirit of the Lord to show you these places of fear, and then begin to change your mentality about it and say, hey, why do I fear here? And what has the Lord said about it? You know, what's his what's his word? What's his report about this situation? And so, I mean, I think that's one thing. I think identifying fear, I think going after it in our lives, and allowing the Lord to show himself faithful in these places. You know, I know for a lot of people, it's, you know, there's fear of finances. There's fear of lack. There's fear of death. There's fear of, you know, I guess you could go down the list. There's a lot of fears that the enemy.
Yeah, you name it. There's a fear of it, you know?
And the Lord told me once that the frequency of fear is what the demonic travels on. So the demonic actually operates in the frequency of fear. And the Lord, we have to deal with these frequencies and these areas of fear in our life. So, hey, is my screen delayed at all?
It is a little, but it's not. I mean, I can still hear you.
Okay.
I mean, you're fine now.
Okay.
Yeah, you're fine now. Right as you pointed out, it's like better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed it actually started getting bad once we started really talking about this specific subject, because I can see the bandwidth level started to dip. So that's not uncommon when the kingdom of darkness doesn't like what we're talking about, dude. But okay, let's talk about fear specifically, because I talk a lot about, you know, people ask me, because I went through a period where I was really just hit with crippling anxiety, how God walked me through that, and how aggressively I dealt with it, even when I felt like super mousy, you know. But what tips do you have, man? Like, I mean, you were kind of talking about it a little bit, but maybe this be a little bit more pointed, because I know that, you know, this is something that's really affecting a lot of people is fear, anxiety, those types of things, especially in the younger generations, man. You know, it's just like, I just really feel like Satan is really like, if I can keep them afraid and I can keep them docile, they will not step up to what God is doing. And it's mighty right now. What God is doing is mighty, and he wants to use us in epic ways for his glory. But so talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. You know, I think that, like I said, that the enemy hates faith. He hates anything that advances against his kingdom. So he uses every tool and weapon he can to bring us under fear and intimidation. And so I believe that part of what the Lord does is he allows us. Here's what we do. Here's our natural reaction: is we hold on, you know, by our fingertips. Even we're like, we don't have any strength left. Sometimes we just feel like we're just holding on by our fingertips. And God's like, you know what? Just try letting go and watch how I catch you. In the fear of that fall, the fear of letting go, the fear of trusting God that he's going to supply, that he's going to be enough, or that he's going to come through, whatever the case is. It's that letting go that we need to experience. And I believe that that's what we see when Caleb and Joshua, when they said, surely we can go up against these giants. Surely we can go in and overtake the Lord. I think at that point they had surrendered all hope in what they could see in the natural. They had to. You can't depend on what you were seeing. You can't see a land full of giants and the giants devour the land and inhabitants of it. You can't depend one bit. At this point, they completely let go and said, God, there is only one way that we're going to go in and overcome, and it's you. And we fully rest in that. That's where we're resting in. And we have no plan B. You're it. And so I think that's part of the process is God says, would you just begin to try me, not try me, taste and see that I'm good in this area. Let go of being in control. Fear breeds control. Every place that you're trying to control in your own effort and your own strength and your own grit, God is dealing with. In fact, let me just tell you the word he gave to me today. He told me, he said, right now, I am working for my body, for everyone in my body. I'm working things out for peace. He says, where peace hasn't been reigning and ruling in their midst, for some of them, I'm going to push pause. Because if they continue to go after the promises and the destiny that they have without peace, it'll bring destruction and it'll cause trauma.
Wow.
And so he told me even today, he said that I am actually going to, instead of letting people run right into the fulfillment, I might actually have them pause for a season. And then he said, I might actually bring people back to a former place, because in that former place, they still have so much pain. They've never gotten freedom from the pain. I'm going to now exchange their pain in this place for peace. And so God's like, he's doing a lot of shifting right now. But he's saying it's not because I'm failing, or it's not because I'm not going to fulfill the promises in lives. It's because I'm working things out for peace.